Today on Teach Me How to Vegan.
And then we have another cookie that Fortune perfected.
The raspberry jam shortbread cookies.
Yes.
And this was awesome because he found this recipe in a book he was reading.
Mm-hmm.
Growing up in our house, he knows, he can read a recipe and tell how easy it is to veganize it.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And so he came to us like, can we make these cookies? We could just use vegan butter. And then they'll be vegan. And, I can do this. I can make these.
He did. He made them. Very minimal help from us.
The little ones can make it. And it's super cute because you roll them in balls and then you do the little thumbprint. And then you put the raspberry in. So if you've got little hands doing little thumbprints.
It's adorable.
Super cute.
Yeah.
Welcome to Teach Me How to Vegan.
A podcast where we explore how to switch to a vegan diet.
I'm Tony, a health educator, fitness instructor, and plant-based eating program manager for Animal Protection of New Mexico.
I'm Mickey, a stay-at-home homeschooling mom and vegan cook who likes to play in the kitchen.
Our family stopped eating meat in 2007.
And we went vegan in 2016. Now we like to share with others what we've learned.
Thanks for joining us.
Let's get started.
Welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us. Today's going to be a super sweet episode. We've got some exciting recipes in store to talk about. The topic today is cookies, brownies, and cakes. Oh my.
Oh my.
So we're still, as we mentioned in our last episode, we're still chugging along with the Incredible Planet Challenge. If you haven't checked that out, be sure to check that out. It'll be linked in the show notes. You can just search the hashtag on any social media, Incredible Planet Challenge, and see the challenges and just what people are doing, recipes, ideas, inspiration, all that good stuff. And so the challenge for April 14th is to bake a plant-based dessert.
Oh, so this recipe is right on target.
So
this episode is right on target.
Yeah, we've got you covered. If you had a little trouble with that, or you just want round 2 today, you want to try your hand at more plant-based desserts, that's what we're talking all about today. And this is one of our favorite topics just in general.
Yes.
We're going to talk all about the recipes, kind of what ingredients they might call for. Some of them are vegan already, and the ones that aren't, we'll talk about how we veganize them. So, Mickey, what do you want to start with?
Oh, my gosh.
Cookies, brownies, or cakes?
Oh, dear. I guess we'll just go in order of the name, cookies.
Okay.
Because how do you choose?
How do you choose? All right, cookies. Well, we've talked at length about our favorite chocolate chip cookies that our teenager, Constantine, makes often. Right? So I don't think there's too much more to share about that. But for anybody who's new to the podcast, we can just talk briefly about it, I think.
It's a pretty easy recipe because he's been making it now for 2 years. I think it was 2 years ago I sent him the recipe and it was like, make these.
Yeah. Here's your home ec lesson for today.
I was like, I want cookies, but I am not able to make them soon. And this is a skill you need in life. And he's been making them ever since.
Yeah.
So
He realized, this is possible. And he enjoys.
He does.
He enjoys baking, and then he enjoys the end product.
The end product, exactly.
So it always worked. Then that became part of his thing. I'm going to finish my work and then do the dishes and then make cookies and then can I have free time?
Yeah, exactly. It's like he started bribing us with cookies.
And we're like, yeah, after you do the dishes and bake cookies, sure.
Absolutely.
You can get on your video games. So the recipe actually, it calls for spelt flour and white flour. And I'm pretty sure we just ignore that.
Yeah, we do. I never, when it's a flour I don't have, I just use whatever flour I have.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's what we do. And it always works out.
Yeah.
It calls for pink salt. And again, we use
table salt.
any salt we have.
Yeah.
It calls for freshly ground flax seeds.
Yeah, we don't do that either.
Whatever we have. They're ground flax seeds, of course.
Ground flax seeds, yes.
Maybe not fresh.
Right.
Per se.
Right.
But they do need to be ground or they won't
bind.
do the binding that you need them to do. And then baking powder. Those are your dry ingredients. Pretty simple. Oh, also sugar. Calls for sugar, peanut butter, and melted virgin coconut oil. Again, I think we use any oil.
Yeah, I think even...
except olive.
Yeah, I think even our our butter. He melts that and uses that sometimes, whatever butter we have in the fridge.
That's
or
right.
neutral oil.
He uses butter. He uses whatever butter we have. I think
Yeah.
that's exactly right. Instead of the coconut oil.
Mm-hmm.
And then it calls for almond milk, and again,
Whatever
any
we
milk,
have.
probably soy milk is what he uses.
Yeah. But if we have almond milk, he probably uses that because you're so bougie about what to drink.
So you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
He probably
Because that's what I said too. Like if we have an almond or rice milk or whatever, use that for baking and save the soy milk for drinking. But if all we have is soy, I think it's very minimal the amount it calls for.
Yeah,
so,
it's 2 tablespoons.
Yeah.
So
he'll
no one's gonna freak out.
Right.
If you use our amazing milk for that. And then it calls for apple cider vinegar and vanilla extract. And semi-sweet chocolate chips.
Mm-hmm. Easy.
And those are pretty easy to find at certain stores, the vegan semi-sweet chocolate chips.
Mm-hmm. Walmart's been carrying, they have the organic Great Value chips are vegan.
Right, because they're
like the allergen-free ones.
Exactly.
And they're really, I think they're a decent price for organic allergen-free chocolate chips.
Yeah, they really are. And they have semi-sweet, they have white, they have dark.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for vegan chocolate chips and you can't find them at whatever stores you're at, look at Walmart. Almost every location nowadays has them because it's their new line, their allergen-friendly line. So you can find them in the baking aisle.
Yeah.
Also, you can find them at Trader Joe's, Costco, Sprouts, right? Those are like the go-to before Walmart unrolled their new line. So lots of options, and I'm sure there's more places. So those are our go-to chocolate chip cookies recipe. And again, it's pretty forgiving. Use any flour, any butter, any...
Yeah, yeah. And another cookie that's really forgiving, I think, is peanut butter cookies. And there's a variety of ways to make peanut butter cookies. You can make them virtually I think you can make them gluten-free with no flour at all. I've seen some. I don't remember the recipes. I'll have to look. But the ones that I like, the ones with flour, because I like the cookie taste. But it's really like flour, peanut butter, and a sweetener are most peanut butter cookies recipes. And so that's really easy too.
There you go.
And I every now and then I'm on a peanut butter kick.
I know. Yeah, I didn't have that. We weren't ready to share that recipe because we don't make peanut butter cookies at home very often. That's usually something that you get out
because
as a treat.
Because I like to get the giant peanut butter cookies out. Whereas when I make peanut butter cookies at home, I'm making the sort of smaller ones that you push the fork down on to get the little crisscross. Those are the ones I'm doing at home. So it's a little more like
labor intensive.
Yeah. Whereas, you can just buy a giant peanut butter cookie.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's another cookie I personally love. It's really delicious. And sometimes I like throwing in chocolate chips into my peanut butter cookie mix. So then you have peanut butter chocolate chip cookies.
Okay.
All right. And then we have another cookie that Fortune perfected. And what is that one called?
The raspberry jam shortbread cookies.
Yes.
And this was awesome because he found this recipe in a book he was reading. He was reading Poppy Pendle.
Yep.
And growing up in our house, he knows, he can read a recipe and tell how easy it is to veganize it.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And so he came to us can we make these cookies? We could just use vegan butter. And then they'll be vegan. And, I can do this. I can make these. And so, of course,
we tried it out and he did. He made them. Very minimal help from us. And then they were so easy that he ended up, this was his gift, was a dozen of these cookies to all the family.
For the holidays.
Yeah. That was his holiday gift to everybody. So it was sweet. It was really cute.
And they're so good.
They're so good. Oh my gosh.
I didn't know what kind of expectations to have, but those old raspberry jam shortbread cookies where it's you got the little thumbprint in them and it's got a little raspberry jam in there. You can get them at the store. You get a little bag they're little bite size. These are homemade ones, which obviously taste way better than store-bought. And they're fresher. Yeah.
Oh my God, they were so good.
They're a little bit bigger than bite size, or maybe bite size. No judgment if they're bite size.
It depends on how big you roll out your little dough balls, and because I think the first time Forge made them, they were bite size because you're supposed to get the recipe called, you get 72 cookies out of it or something huge.
70 is what it yields.
Like a lot of cookies. And so they're meant to be like 1 or 2 bites, you know. And for the holidays, we made them a little bit bigger.
Okay.
So that it wasn't as time consuming because we were giving it to like 7 different people.
Yeah.
You know?
They might have still been bite-sized for his uncle, but...
Right. Yeah.
Like I said, no heat, no judgment. But yeah, it just calls for butter. And again, you can use any vegan butter. Literally, we've baked with, I think, every vegan butter you can find.
Yeah.
And they all work. And even, you know, if you want to or need to or whatever the reasoning, there are some vegetable oil spreads, you know, some like margarines that are extremely affordable.
Yeah.
That we actually went for during the holidays when we were doing a ton of baking.
Yes, yeah.
You can use I think they come out to like 70 cents a stick or something.
Yeah.
It's very affordable. Or again, you can use any of the Country Crock has their plant butter that comes in sticks that's convenient for baking. Earth Balance also makes stick butter.
So I think a lot of the like spreads, the difference between the spreads and the sticks is that the spreads, to make them spreadable, has a higher water content. And sometimes that matters, but we haven't really encountered much baking, at least in regards to cookies, where it's mattered significantly for us.
Right.
So I will say that. Like, some people will be like, oh, you really shouldn't use that because the water content and the chemistry and this and that. And for our purposes and what we're doing and what we're happy with, we haven't encountered an issue with, like, the spreads or certain ones having a higher water content.
That's a good point. And we can say from experience with these cookies that we're talking about, it's never been an issue.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks for pointing that out.
Yeah, because sometimes it does matter and make a difference. Like maybe when you're making like croissants or something.
Okay.
I feel like because that has such a high, like it uses so much butter, maybe it would matter there. But I think for these purposes and for our enjoyment purposes and for us not being very super particular about most cookies. There are some times that some of the cookies come out better than the other. And then it's really interesting to look. I think I might have a pin on my Pinterest somewhere and I'll look for it. And if I can find it, or a blog post or something, if I can find it, we'll add it into the show notes. But it was a really awesome post where it showed like if your cookie looks like this, you added too much of this ingredient.
Oh, okay.
If it looks like this, you added too much of this or not enough or whatever. And that's been interesting to look at with the different ways, like when you have like a random batch, you're just like, what happened? They're still good, but they're not what you were going for because they came out differently multiple times before. So maybe we'll look for that post and share that too.
Yeah, I think that would be really helpful.
Yeah, but for the most part, consistently, the spreads have worked in a pinch.
Yeah. So again, these raspberry jam shortbread cookies, they call for butter, confectioner's sugar,
which is just powdered sugar,
sugar, vanilla extract, salt, flour, cornstarch, and then raspberry jam.
Yeah.
Super simple.
Yep.
And you can do any raspberry jam you want. I actually wonder how it would be if you use like a raspberry habanero.
Ooh.
And give it like a little spice for people who like that kind of thing.
You could go all sorts of ways with the jam inside. You can do peach, mango, strawberry, rhubarb. You can go all sorts of ways with what you fill it with.
Yeah.
But I do recommend starting with the raspberry because it is really delicious.
The classic.
Yeah.
The classic.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then, like we said, the little ones can make it. And it's super cute because you roll them in balls and then you do the little thumbprint and then you put the raspberry in. So if you've got little hands doing little thumbprints, it's adorable. Super cute.
Yeah.
So highly recommend to do with any littles in your life.
And then especially, I feel like grandparents really love that. Oh, they're thumbprint cookies and, you know, so-and-so made it and that's their little thumbprint. Like, it's just sweet in a way, you know?
Yep, exactly.
So
okay. Speaking of Fortune, should we share his other recipe?
Yes.
So he enjoys baking too. Fortune is 9 years old now. And he gets into cooking and baking just like the rest of us. And he came up with an idea for another sort of cookie type of thing that he originally called the Chilled Delight.
Yes.
And we've now called them Forchi bars.
Yeah.
And he likes that name as well. And I'm just going to read off his handwritten recipe because it's an original from him that he gave us permission to share.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's half a cup of peanut butter, 1/3 cup of chocolate chips, 5 marshmallows,
Mm-hmm.
or 3 big ones. So 5 of the little ones or 3 of the big ones, half a cup of oats, 3 tablespoons of maple syrup, and 1/4 of a cup of milk.
Mm-hmm. And so him and I worked on this recipe together. He started with the ingredients and the amounts. And when you're creating a recipe, so this is basically like a no-bake bar, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's a
Yep.
chilled delight. The
Exactly.
Forchi bars, are chilled delights. We started kind of with, like, the bulk of it is like the oats and the peanut butter is kind of the base, because the oats are your, like, in place of the flour, and
Mhm.
the peanut butter is your binder.
Mm-hmm.
And so we just kind of played around with the amounts until we got something that could be easily pressed into a pan and chilled and held together pretty easily. And then I think we did more than 5 mini marshmallows, because
I was gonna say.
I think it ended up being, I think we put them in the muffin tin, right?
Mhm,
We did
you
it in our
did.
silicone muffin tin so
Mhm.
that it could be individual things. And so I think we probably did like 3 to 5 marshmallows in each
Mhm.
thing. So everybody got a little bit. And these were really tasty.
Yeah, it was really
They
good.
were really good.
And it's
Like, let's make these again soon.
yeah, because you just throw it all together, mix it together, and chill it in the fridge,
Yeah.
like you said, and then enjoy it. It's a great, like, when you need a hearty snack,
Yeah.
like you need a snack to get you to dinner,
Mm-hmm.
but you need something that's gonna kind of like have a little oomph in
Yes.
your stomach, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Like the energy balls.
Right, right.
You know, and I was just thinking another thing, if you wanted, that I think could easily be added to this to up the, oomph in your stomach, is
Mhm.
chia seeds.
Mm-hmm.
Would be a good addition to this, and an easy addition to
I
give
was
it more oomph.
Wondering, I was thinking that either that or flax,
Yeah.
because it's just, does a little bit more binding,
Mm-hmm.
but adds more fiber,
Mm-hmm.
healthy fats,
Yes.
more oomph, if you will.
Yeah, exactly. And then there was an optional 3 teaspoons of candy cane sprinkles. But we held off on that because we weren't sure how the peanut butter, chocolate chips, marshmallows would mix with the candy cane.
I mean, to fortune, it
So
sounds delicious.
yeah, and
but-
he was like, yeah, I think you're right, minty. So maybe if you went a different route. But I think that regular sprinkles could be a really fun addition for on top, especially if, like, you're not doing it in little balls, like for energy, little ball bites. If you're just doing, like, in the muffin pan, and we have a silicone muffin pan, so it's easy to, like, pop them out. But I think in a metal one it'd be fine too. Get a little spatula or spoon or something to pop them out. But I think, yeah, doing a little bit of sprinkles and, like, pressing it in on the top would be a fun addition too.
For sure. And I was also thinking, if you wanted to up the nutritional value a little bit, you could, instead of marshmallows and maybe even instead of chocolate chips, you could do, or in addition, but you could add dried fruit like raisins or craisins.
Yeah, this is I think the oats, peanut butter, maple syrup, and milk is a really good base. And then you can do all sorts of add-ons, add-ins. You could do the sweet, like, chocolate chips and marshmallows, or you could go, like, dried fruit, nuts, dates, all sorts of things.
Right.
It was really good. It was a nice treat. We all really liked it.
Yeah. So fun extra bonus recipe that Fortune was kind to let us share. All right. So still on cookies, another cookie that is very important to share with our listeners is your cookie for one.
Oh my gosh, yes. Well, it's not my cookie for one. I found this recipe and it's absolutely wonderful because she gives you this website. What's it called? What's the website?
Peanutbutterpluschocolate.com.
Oh my, yeah. See, peanutbutterpluschocolate.com. You know you're in for a good time there. But they give you options for your cookie for one, and it's like there's a regular chocolate chip option, there's a peanut butter option, there's a, like, birthday cake cookie option that has, like, sprinkles in it, and then there's, like, a white chocolate chip cookie option, I think.
There's a chocolate hazelnut espresso cookie, and why Why have you never not? Why have you not ever told me about this?
Because I get stuck on the other ones. And espresso cookies are not my jam the way it's your jam. But yeah, it's really great. And then it's nice too, this recipe, because you can either make yourself one giant cookie, which is super fun, or you can make yourself a couple smaller cookies. But they're still good sized cookies. Like I think I've made this one time for the three of us, where we just wanted, me, you, and Teen one time, where we just wanted a little extra, or me and you, and we just wanted a little. Like it works.
Yeah, there's sometimes when you ask me if I want one,
Yeah,
because you don't necessarily want the whole giant
cookie for
one, so you make it a cookie for two instead.
Yes, exactly. But it's really, really delicious. And how do you go wrong with a website name like that? Like, come on.
Right. And this recipe is already vegan, so you don't have to veganize it, which is great. And pretty basic ingredients again. Like I feel like all of these have like very similar ingredients. It's just like how you put them together and bake them, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's flax meal, or which is ground flaxseed, water, vegan butter, brown sugar, white sugar, vanilla extract, all-purpose flour, baking powder, baking soda, sea salt, and chopped dark chocolate, which you probably just use chocolate chips.
Yep. And I will say, when I've been out of one of the two sugars, I've used just whatever I have, and it works too. But I do like, I think what I have found that I prefer, that I notice a bit of a difference in cookies, is a split in the sugar, where some of it's white sugar and some of it's brown sugar.
Oh, that's where it's important to actually follow
I think that if you have both, I think go that route. I think it's worth it.
Okay.
I do. But I have made cookies, and I've done this recipe with just one or the other, and it totally hits the spot. It's still delicious. But I think it was this recipe that I realized, I think I taste the difference. Or I think I see the difference, and I prefer the two sugars.
That's good to know that it's worth that.
Yeah, I do think it's worth that little bit extra.
Okay.
But it's not like, definitely do it. I'm not going to say never. Never say never. I'm going to say I hardly ever have a hard line of definitely do it this way. Don't veer from it. Like I try to be super flexible in the kitchen with a variety of things, even though sometimes I am particular in what I want to eat and when I want to eat it. I'm pretty flexible in how I make it, at least.
Yeah, because
for the most part,
that's what makes it sustainable.
Yeah.
Like, how can you cook and bake day in and day out if you're so rigid?
Yeah.
You know, I think that's part of how you can do it all the time, is just being flexible and using what you have.
Yeah.
And figuring out when is it really important.
Right.
And when is it not? And when can you just wing it?
Yeah. And I will say, I think having a little bit of brown sugar in your cookies goes a long way. It goes a long way.
Okay.
If you have it, I think it might be worth it. And like I find that we don't go through brown sugar as fast as we do other sugars. So when you get a bit of brown sugar, when you buy it, it'll probably last a while.
Yes.
So there's that too. You're not like buying it all the time.
Yeah. And I'm just looking at this peanut butter plus chocolate website, and I want to try these espresso cookies because they call for the same ingredients as the other one, except that you need instant espresso and chopped hazelnuts.
Yeah.
And I would probably, instead of chopped hazelnuts, I might want to do almonds.
I thought you were going to say pecans.
I know, but with coffee, actually, you probably can't go wrong with pecans. I'm just thinking of pairings with coffee, and I've liked toasted almond creamer in the past. And I've also liked, what's the other nut? Oh, like a pinon coffee.
Yes.
So I think pinon would be a good
one in there
one
too.
to do in there too. I don't know. I can't remember liking a hazelnut coffee or a hazelnut creamer, but it's not to say it's not delicious.
Right.
But almonds and pecans are things we would buy more often.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think I want to try that in the near future.
Well, there you go.
So I'm learning new things too. All right, so that's the cookie for one, and I think that's all of the cookie recipes in particular that we wanted to talk about. You said you wanted to go in order, so we'll just talk about brownies next. And we just have a couple brownies to talk about. Brownies are a little bit, I guess, again, something we don't make at home super often.
Yeah.
But
I used to. I had a stint with Brownies and then it fell off. I'm not exactly sure what happened, but I wouldn't be sad if that came back because I like Brownies like a lot.
Here's what I think what happened.
What happened was
you found this recipe that we're going to talk about right now, the brownie in a mug.
Oh, yeah. That's what happened.
And then why make a whole pan of brownies when you can easily make a brownie in a mug for yourself?
This is true. That's probably what happened.
Yeah, because the rest of us aren't super brownie lovers the way you are.
Yeah,
and that's why we're not like, we're missing out on brownies.
Yeah.
But you would.
Mm-hmm. And I like more fudgy brownies than cakey brownies. And I think the last couple batches I made were more cakey. And so then like, I don't know. Like I like the perfect combination of the two.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I just like lost my magic sauce or something for making the perfect combination of the two. And it's like, they're gone. And then I found the brownie in the mug.
And it just works perfectly for you. So
it's so good.
So I veer from that. Now, the brownie in a mug is just like it sounds. You mix your ingredients in a mug, a coffee mug, put it in the microwave.
For 1 minute, that is all.
And then it's done.
Yeah. It's literally like a 3-minute endeavor to make this brownie in a mug, which, you know, for better or worse, it's really good.
The beauty of it is, so one, you don't need certain kitchen equipment.
Yep.
So people who are limited in that area, you can still have delicious brownies.
Yes.
Number two, it requires like virtually zero skill. If you can operate a microwave,
you got this.
You're
can good.
Do this.
Mm-hmm.
And three, it's in a mug because you don't need the right binding. You don't need like the perfect chemistry to bind it and keep it together.
Yeah.
As a brownie, because it's in the mug and you eat it with a spoon. So it's okay if it falls apart. It doesn't make any difference.
Yeah.
Right? That's all put together. That's the beauty of these quote unquote in a mug.
Yeah.
Now you can also do like a cookie in a mug or a cake in a mug, and
there's so many variations.
There's so many variations.
Yeah.
Once you go down the rabbit hole, you can find all the things. Yeah. I think for the purpose of not getting lost for an hour, let's just focus on the brownie in a mug.
Yeah. Yep.
But you get the idea, right?
Yes.
You just mix ingredients in a mug, microwave it, and you're ready to go.
Yeah.
And it's a good one serving. Sometimes we half it because it's a lot.
I was going to say, actually, the original recipe, because it calls for like 4 tablespoons of flour, which is 1/4 cup, right?
Yes.
4 tablespoons,
correct.
Yeah. So it's 1/4 cup of flour. And you think, first time you make it, you think, oh, that's not bad. Like, that's okay. That's cool, whatever. It's actually a really big serving.
It's actually a lot, yeah.
It does end up being a lot. And if you don't put it in the right size mug, you can have a mess. So be sure you've got a big enough mug for one. And so sometimes we half it because sometimes we just want that little bit.
And for me, especially if it's like in the evening, like a dessert.
Exactly.
It's too much because it calls for 2 tablespoons of butter. That's way too much for me.
At night.
I'm more sensitive to fat.
Mm-hmm.
And so, especially in the evening time, like that 2 tablespoons of butter, a lot of times is a lot for me, unless it like is my dinner. So I
not
like
that
to...
you would know, right?
I know, not that I ever do that. But when I'm being smart about it, usually opt to half it so that it's not too much for me.
And another option in that department is in place of the butter or oil, people can try applesauce.
That's true, yeah.
There's that too. Now, I can't remember if we've done that because I think I always just go for it with the butter.
I've never tried it with applesauce.
Yeah, but that is an option.
It is, because we've actually done applesauce with our biscuits several times.
Yeah, I've done it.
And it totally works.
Yeah.
The consistency is not the exact same as you can imagine. It's not a perfect replacement, but it's a good fat-free option if you need to lower your fat.
I have done it in other recipes, and it does work. And as you say, the consistency is different, but it's still good if you need to not have a lot of fat in your life. So that's an option too.
And now I want to try it to see how it is.
Yes.
Because that could really change the game.
Mm-hmm.
Because
especially with, I feel like maybe it's a little more forgiving in the cake in a mug.
Yeah, I'm wondering if it is. Because again, you don't need it to stay together.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, it might be a little more forgiving in the mug recipes and not be as noticeable. especially in sweet stuff too, since applesauce sometimes, like in biscuits, I feel like the biscuits didn't taste, the flavor profile wasn't any different.
At all.
It was just the consistency was different.
The texture.
Right. The texture of the biscuit was different. But yeah, so I think it might be more forgiving. That would be my guess, is it's a little more forgiving in the mug recipes.
I want to try it.
Mm-hmm.
But basically this brownie in a mug calls for butter, all-purpose flour, sugar, cocoa powder, salt, cinnamon, milk or water, which I would not recommend using water.
Go the milk, yeah.
And also vanilla extract, and then optional toppings like ice cream, whipped cream, or heavy cream, or the Silk heavy whipping cream. Just poured on top.
Yep. Yeah. I think I don't ever put the cinnamon.
Probably not. I would bet you don't.
I don't think I've ever done the cinnamon.
And this says the cinnamon is optional.
Mm-hmm.
It also says instead of milk or water, you could do coffee. That could be interesting. But even I would do like half coffee, half milk, or half coffee, half cream.
Well, and that's
or like coffee with creamer.
Yeah,
it has to be more creamy.
And also if you're having it at night, I know you're really you gotta watch even like coffee type stuff.
Yeah. Well, of course, there's decaf.
Oh, there you go. Mm-hmm.
Like if we did the other cookies, I would want to do some type of decaf coffee powder or something.
And the cake in the mugs are really delicious. Sometimes there's a vanilla celebration cake in a mug that has like with sprinkles. All right, what else we got?
10 out of 10.
Another brownie recipe. Don't we have one?
Yeah. Another brownie recipe is the black bean brownies.
Yes.
And this is another good one. If you're trying to marry whole foods and sweet treats, this is a good marriage of the two. Now, when we say the word black bean brownies, don't freak out.
Don't.
The first time Mickey said that to me, I was like, ew, no.
Yeah, you were.
Don't.
Everybody was like, not interested.
It's everyone's.
Y'all were like, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
And they were probably some of the best brownies we've ever had.
Facts.
They were so good. I think it was really easy to get the fudgy. I don't know what else to call it. You know what I mean? When it's not cake-like. It was easy to get that with the black bean brownies.
I don't know why. The black beans are magic. You drain them.
And you rinse them.
Mash them or whatever.
Blend
or you do them in the food processor. And you mix all the other ingredients and bake them. There's not a remote hint
of black bean. I know.
Whatsoever in it.
Yep.
All you taste is fudgy brownies, like Mickey said, but they've got all the bonus nutritional content of the black beans.
I know.
Right?
Yeah.
So the recipe calls for black beans, cocoa, coconut oil, vanilla, flour, salt, and then this recipe calls for honey and eggs. You can obviously maybe not obviously, but you can substitute the honey for any liquid sweetener. Maple syrup, agave work great in place of honey.
I think the recipe that when I made it was maple syrup because we really didn't have much agave in our life at that time.
Okay.
So.
And then the eggs, you can just do an egg replacer like flax eggs. And that would even boost the nutritional content even further. So now these are like fiber packed, omega-3 packed, protein packed brownies.
I know. Yeah. And I don't think we've ever made it without the oil.
No.
And tried the applesauce. But if somebody does that, let us know how that goes. Because that's another, if you're trying to stay away from super refined or just refined stuff.
Right. And I don't want to get lost in the weeds of it, but some people feel that coconut oil is an appropriate oil to use.
Yeah.
Or that's cool for you. So there's that.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it is a dessert too. So
yeah. Yeah.
Enjoy.
And it's really good.
And then we like to top them with a little bit of whipped cream. Maybe I just did that. Maybe I wanted to. But I made these for a birthday celebration at work one time, way back in the day, when none of my coworkers were vegan.
Yeah.
And so I made these, and then I made the coconut whip to put on top. Naturally, I didn't tell anyone they were black bean brownies. I just said they were brownies. Everyone ate them. Everyone loved them. It was glorious. Then people started asking about the recipe, and then they were like, what in the world? There's black beans in here? what are you feeding me? I'm like, you didn't say
Say
anything
anything.
while you were eating it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I guess you're right. No one ever questions
Yep.
how delicious it is.
Yep.
And then, and then it's like, okay. So yeah, don't forget. Because the first time you said it to me, I was like, no, you're not making
Yeah,
those. And
I
I'm
know.
not going to eat those.
And then you learned.
And then I stood so corrected.
Yeah.
So highly recommend those black bean brownies with a few slight
Modifications.
to veganize them.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now let's talk about cakes.
Yes.
Now.
Well, we mentioned the cake in a mug already.
Right. So
Super
you can go
good.
that route.
Yep.
And again, then it can fall apart. It's fine. It's in a mug.
Yep.
But sometimes you want a cake to actually serve to other
Yes.
people.
A cake.
A cake. So our go-to lately for cakes, especially for birthdays or whatever gatherings, is what I call the depression cake.
Yeah.
And
Funny story.
it's called that because it's a depression era cake, right?
Yeah.
When they didn't have access to eggs and
Milk. Yeah.
And so they figured out how to make cake from cheaper ingredients, which
more readily available ingredients.
which
yeah.
surprise, surprise, happened to be vegan also. So it was an accidentally vegan cake, and it called it the depression cake because it's a depression era cake. And then who was it? Somebody in the family thought
one
that
of your sisters.
she thought it was a depression cake because it's what you make when you're depressed.
If you're sad and you just want cake.
Because it's like super easy and cheap.
Yes. Yep.
And you could just throw it together like, oh yeah, your depression cake when you're just like sad and you want to eat your emotions.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yep.
well, okay, it's a double entendre.
There you go. Yes.
It
I
works
think
both ways.
Yeah. The blog that I found it from, though, they call it Crazy Cake because it's crazy that you don't need milk and eggs to make this cake.
And how good it comes
It's
out.
so, yeah, it's crazy
fluffy,
good. It's so
it's
good.
all the things you want cake to be.
I don't know that I will ever, because that website, she's got a vanilla version, a chocolate version, and a lemon version. I don't know that I'll ever not use those recipes. And there's cupcake recipes on the website, too. So I don't think I'll ever go back. The only other cake recipe that I will use is your mom's chocolate mayonnaise cake.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. But between those two, I'm done looking for a cake recipe.
Yeah. And so I'm not prepared right now to share my mom's chocolate mayonnaise cake.
Yeah.
But it's a pretty classic recipe.
Yeah, you could probably
from back in the day,
Yeah.
it was a thing people did because the mayonnaise replaced the eggs and the oil.
Exactly.
And so it's an easy way to make a vegan cake today because you just follow the chocolate mayonnaise recipe and use a vegan mayonnaise.
Exactly.
That's all we do.
And so, yeah, you can Google that, Google chocolate mayonnaise cake, and you'll find a recipe and just make the appropriate substitutions, and you're good.
Which is usually just the mayonnaise.
Just the mayonnaise,
'Cause
yeah.
You don't even have to substitute anything else. It's just like flour, cocoa powder,
Yep.
sugar.
Easy.
Yeah. And the Best Foods vegan mayo works great in there.
Yep.
I think because that tastes more similar to the non-vegan mayonnaise
I agree.
that I grew up on.
Yeah.
I love veganese, but it tastes a little bit different.
Right.
It would probably work just as fine in the cake, though.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so back to the crazy cake or depression cake.
Right. And because also, why would you never not use this? Because we talk about budgeting and vegan on a budget. I mean, this just saves you so much money.
Yeah.
I mean, the depression era should be your first clue that this is going to be a cheap cake to make.
Yep.
And if I can scroll down 5,000 yards to the actual recipe, I'll tell you what it calls for. So it calls for flour, cocoa, sugar, baking soda, salt, white vinegar, and vanilla extract. Vegetable oil and water.
Yeah, that's it. And it's so easy. You can even make it in the pan. That's the other thing that I really love is you can make it in whatever pan you're going to bake it in because you mix all your dry ingredients together and then you make 3 little like impressions in the dry ingredients to put your wet ingredients in and then you mix it.
And then you bake it.
And
it doesn't stick when you've done that?
No. I've done that before. I haven't had a problem with it sticking.
Wow. I'm always like super paranoid and
I know.
grease the pan way more than I need to, that I'm like frying the cake.
Yes, you do. The edges are crispy.
But it don't stick to it.
It doesn't.
So good to know. This one's not going to stick either, theoretically.
Now, I don't think I have ever... I don't know if I've tried to take it out. Maybe I have, and it's been fine. You know where you put your cookie sheet on top and to flip it out?
Mm-hmm.
I think I've done that, and it's not been a problem.
Okay.
But it's just as easy to,
frost
in the
pan.
Yeah.
Especially if you use like a glass baking dish, it looks pretty and presentable.
Yeah, I just like having frosting on the corner, so on like all the sides, so you can get a corner slice with maximum frosting.
So that's why you got to pop it out of.
That's
the pan
why I like popping it out
and do that.
But I don't think I've had issues with that. And for frosting, we just use a vegan store-bought frosting.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, this may be blasphemy. Please don't send me any hate mail. I think I prefer the store-bought frostings, like the cans that you buy, the jars you buy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why. There's not very many homemade frostings. Your sister makes a good one that I like, but there's some others that I just don't. I don't know what it is.
There's something in the texture and or flavor.
That just doesn't jive with me. So I don't have a go-to frosting recipe because I still just do the store-bought ones, And usually if I'm making a cake, there's a whole lot of other stuff going on that's where I'm cutting a corner to make my life easier.
Right.
Because it's usually for an event that I'm making a cake. I have been known to make cakes just for us randomly sometimes, but usually it is for an event.
Right. And the thing about the store-bought frostings is, one, they're very affordable.
Mm-hmm.
Again, so $1.50 to frost your whole cake. And you could see the cake itself costs like 50 cents to make from the ingredients, maybe $1.
Yeah.
So that's one thing with the frosting. Mm-hmm. Two, there's a really good variety.
Yeah.
Like you could get cream cheese frosting, you can get a chocolate frosting, you can get different kinds that are accidentally vegan.
Yeah,
you just have to read the ingredients.
Yeah, I've seen lemon, strawberry, cream cheese, vanilla, chocolate fudge. That's 6 different flavors. I mean, if you consider the chocolate and chocolate fudge 2 different flavors, technically on the store shelves they do. So
they are. I think they are.
I think so too.
So that's a good variety right there that you have to frost different cakes with accidentally vegan, affordable frosting.
Yep. Now, if they can just get that rainbow chip frosting to be vegan, I will be a happy camper because that was my favorite, those little rainbow chips. The Funfetti is not the same. Don't come for me.
It's not the same.
It's not the same. The rainbow chip is where it's at. It's the chips that have some milk, something in it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, but yeah, that's our story with frosting.
Yeah. So sorry we don't have glorious tried and true recipes for frosting.
There are a lot. I would say look at like Nora Cooks and Hot for Food, probably Minimalist Baker. I would bet all of those have some good vegan frosting recipes. And I think most of the vegan like buttercreams, it's the same recipe just using vegan butter.
Right. That's it. You just swap the butter.
Yeah.
So you could use any recipe.
Yeah. So I think you're probably fine. The website that has the crazy cake, depression cake, has recipes for frosting as well. I haven't tried them. I can't speak to them. So.
Awesome. Well, did we talk about enough sweets that we could say, oh my?
I think so.
Cookies, brownies, and cakes. Oh my.
Yep.
Hopefully this was a good start, gave you some more ideas and inspiration, and or got you started if you're looking for a starting point.
Yes.
For baking a vegan dessert, a plant-based dessert. Go forth, enjoy. Let us know what you enjoyed most, what worked, what didn't work. If you've got tweaks or ideas or if you have a great recipes to share with us, we're all ears. We love to hear about that. And I'm going to go make a chocolate espresso cookie for one.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think I have the fixins for a cake, so that's in our future soon.
Nice. As always, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us. We release new episodes every 2 weeks. You can always email us at plantbased@apnm.org
Check out our website, apnm.org/plant-based for classes, recipes, and more resources.
See you in 2 weeks.